Success in franchise ownership depends on three critical factors that work together like a three-legged stool. You have the franchisee, the franchisor, and the market. And if one leg is shorter than the others, the stool gets a little wobbly. If one completely fails, the whole thing falls over. And most people focus only on finding a good franchise, but that's only one leg of the stool. And so in this video, I'll break down all three legs and show you how to evaluate each one to dramatically increase your chances of franchise success and avoid all the costly mistakes that happen when people ignore any single factor. If you're new here, my name's Connor Gross. I'm a franchise owner and a franchise consultant who helps entrepreneurs and investors to find the right franchise for them. For access to my library of franchise resources, you can click the link in the description. Let me walk through how to evaluate each leg of the stool, starting with leg number one, which is the franchisee. In this case would be you. So the franchisee evaluation comes down to three main variables, which is skill set, mindset, and capitalization. So when we think about skill set, what I do not mean is your skill in doing the thing that the business does, right? If it's a window cleaning business, which was my first franchise, like I was really bad at cleaning windows, still am, but that's okay because I don't clean windows. And hopefully whatever franchise you end up buying, hopefully you aren't the one that's actually doing the thing with your hand. So that's not important to me. What is important to me is that you have the skills and whatever lever needs to be pulled to drive revenue in that business. For example, if it's a B2B business, you should be skilled in B2B sales, or you should have the traits that positions you well to be skilled in B2B sales. You'd have to understand this well enough to drive growth effectively in this business, even if you plan to hire a salesperson down the road. If it's a marketing dependent business that's B2C, you need to be skilled in marketing, or at least have the capacity to become skilled when you're complemented with the training, the support, the structure that the franchisor brings to the table. So the point is, the franchisee must be strong in the area that most directly impacts revenue generation for that business model specifically. So that's skill set. Let's talk about mindset. How much time are you planning to dedicate to this business? If somebody has the mindset that this is just going to be a passive investment, first of all, I would say don't buy a franchise with that mindset, but they're certainly not going to dedicate very much time to it. And if it's a business that needs very active involvement, that is a major problem, irrespective of the skill set you have, right? If you don't have the mindset to deploy that skill set, it's irrelevant. The franchisee's expectations about time commitment must align with what the business actually requires to be successful. And now let's talk about capitalization. Is the franchisee adequately funded? If you're undercapitalized to the point that you're making business decisions in haste and in a mindset of scarcity because you feel pinched for capital, that is not good, right? You have to have enough money to invest properly on the front end, particularly in marketing and growth, even during periods where the business might not be cash flow positive yet. Being undercapitalized can be extremely harmful to the long-term success of that business. So that's franchisee. Now let's talk about the franchisor. Okay, the franchisor we can evaluate in four key areas, which is a strong business model, growing industry, great leadership, and a strong franchisee network. So let's talk about the business model. At its core, does it make money? Do the unit economics work, right? And when I talk about unit economics, I'm talking about the total investment cost relative to how the business performs financially. Is that ratio in check to your satisfaction? And you also need to have confidence in the systems and processes that the franchisor has in place. Is this a business that can operate efficiently and profitably? Then we need to look at the industry. Is the industry growing and durable according to your standards of what you're comfortable with? Some industries are less durable than others because they may be newer or they may just be more susceptible to disruption. And that's a risk you have to evaluate based on your comfort level and your risk tolerance. Looking at leadership. Are you confident in the franchisor's leadership team? Are you aligned with their vision of where they're going and the culture of the organization that they're trying to build? Because leadership quality often determines how well the franchise system adapts to challenges as well as capitalizes on opportunities that you may not even be aware of yet. Then think about the franchisee network. That you'll be surrounded by franchisees who are also building impressive businesses. And it's much better to be in a franchise system where you have 100 or 200 or 300 other people who are ambitiously growing their businesses than it is to be in an organization where you feel like you're on an island with your growth mindset. That makes you an outlier. And this can be challenging to underwrite if you're looking at an earlier stage brand that's still emerging, but you can ask the franchisor directly, okay? What franchisees, what types of franchisees are you hoping to bring on? And then you're going to pay attention to the other franchisees that are going through the discovery process with you, and pay attention to the franchisees you talk to during validation and see if that aligns. Are these people that I would enjoy building my business alongside of? And are we well positioned to add value to each other's businesses as we grow? So now let's look at leg three, which is the market. And market evaluation involves four main variables. So customer demographics, seasonality and climate, industry distribution, and competition. Let's talk about customer demographics. And really this comes down to the number and density of the ideal customers. Every franchisor should provide provide demographics for your ideal customer. This might include the age range of their customers, the income levels, the housing price points, housing types, right? Some franchises are going to serve single-family freestanding homes, whereas some are going to be more conducive to multifamily homes. And you need to focus on both the sufficient number of ideal customers as well as the density of them. So both of those variables are important. If you're in a market where you're going to have to drive 30 to 40 minutes at least between customers in a rural market in the Midwest, as an example, you need to determine, is this a business model that's still going to work for you in that market? Okay. A big variable here that people don't think about is how long does the job take? And I have friends in very, very rural parts of the country who still own very successful service franchises because they chose the right one with the right business model. So if it takes 2 hours to drive from one end of your territory to the other end, don't pick a low ticket service business where you have to do 10 jobs a day to make money. That's not going to work because of how dispersed the market is. But if it's a business where you do one job and it takes a whole day, that's a much better business model for that market. And the same principle can apply to very urban markets where traffic presents a very persistent challenge. So now we're going to think about seasonality and climate. And any business that is seasonal, obviously it gives people concern, as it should, but seasonal businesses can still be good businesses and can still work to your benefit as long as it's predictable. Sometimes if you're in more extreme climates, whether it's extreme cold or extreme heat, sometimes in service businesses, they actually do better because in more extreme cold climates, it's really understood up there amongst the workforce that you're hiring that you're going to get a winter break, right? You're going to be furloughed for a couple months because every business shuts down. Whereas in extreme heat climates, obviously they may not shut down year round. In that kind of scenario, sometimes there's a more moderate part of the country that get a double-edged sword, right? Where it's not warm enough where they're working year round, but it's also not cold enough where they can furlough their people and remain competitive in the job market. So those are all things that you have to be prepared for. Again, seasonality shouldn't really be a deal breaker. You just want to understand how seasonality and climate will impact the business model and plan accordingly. So now let's talk about industry distribution. And that's obviously going to be most relevant for B2B businesses, but it's very important because B2B businesses tend to be more market sensitive than B2C businesses in a lot of cases. Because in a B2B business, if you can only serve specific industries, the concentration of those industries in any particular market is going to vary significantly. So it creates more market risk than B2C businesses, where you're likely to be serving a broader population, like homeowners, as an example. And there are going to be homeowners in pretty much every market. And that's not to say that every market is created equal, because the number and the density of homeowners is going to change. The demographics in terms of income level is going to vary. But there are going to be homeowners in every market, whereas in a business like the trash business that I'm in, we can only serve customers that have a 40-yard dumpster or greater. And there are some markets out there that just don't have very many 40-yard dumpsters. And in that situation, it really doesn't matter how creative you get with marketing or anything like that. You can't market your way to more dumpsters. So that's why you want to pay attention very closely to industry concentration when you're looking at B2B franchises. So then we need to look at competition and analyze competition on a quantitative basis. And it's very, very important not to think about competition anecdotally. It's so tempting to think, well, I know this one friend from college that I have that owns a roofing business, and then my brother-in-law's colleague's wife's cousin also has a roofing business. I know 2 roofing businesses, therefore I know that the market is saturated. Instead, what you need to focus on is your cost per lead likely to be at a point where you can be competitive from a marketing standpoint? Because in big industries like that, the total addressable market is so high that there's plenty of work to go around for everybody, but the more determinative factor is whether the price point is such that you're able to competitively and profitably compete for leads. Those are the 3 legs of the stool, and let's talk about how we're going to evaluate them all in tandem with each other. Because again, the key here is not to evaluate each one independently, but we have to understand how they work together. Because a great franchisor in a terrible market is not a good idea, but a perfect market with a weak franchisor is also not a good idea. And even the best franchisor in the best market can't overcome a fundamentally mismatched franchisee or an undercapitalized franchisee. Before making any franchise investment, you have to assess all 3 of these legs, and if any leg feels significantly weak, you either need to address it until your concerns are eliminated, or you need to look at different opportunities where all 3 legs are well positioned to be strong. Please remember that franchise success isn't just about finding the quote-unquote good franchise. It's about ensuring that the franchisee, the franchisor, and the market all align to create a stable foundation for success, and evaluating all 3 legs of the stool before making your investment decision is crucial. So with all of that said, if you like my help and you have at least $100K of liquid capital to invest, feel free to book a one-on-one strategy call through the link in the description to get started. And as always, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment letting me know what franchise topic you'd like to hear more about next.